Commander Virax, an imposing alien with golden scales, examined the holographic contract floating before him on the bridge of his mercenary vessel. The payment figure made his inner eyelids blink rapidly, more zeros than he'd seen in a standard cycle. Around him stood his elite crew, Nara, with her completely black eyes, Massive Cruel with his red-streaked skin, the strategist Brain with his elongated head, and Four Eyes, a scarred veteran who remained silent in the corner. "Let me understand clearly," Virax rumbled, his deep voice filling the command chamber. "You want us to eliminate just 12 human soldiers?" The client, merely a shadowy silhouette in the projection, gave a single nod. "Correct. They're interfering with our mining operation on Cygnus 7. Cruel laughed loudly. "Humans, they break if you look at them too hard." Nara, ever cautious, studied the contract details. "They're listed as special forces. What exactly does this mean?" The Shadow replied, "Military specialists. Nothing your team can't handle, Commander Virax." The client continued, "They have no heavy weaponry or orbital support. We need them gone." "Within 72 hours, Brain confidently added, "They're just humans." "Their bone structures yield under minimal pressure. Their skin tears easily. I advise caution," Four Eyes finally spoke, his raspy voice drawing everyone's attention. "Not with their special forces. I've seen them in combat." A momentary silence fell, broken by Cruel's dismissive laughter. "Stories to frighten rookies! I fought humans on Taurus Prime. They died like everything else." Virax considered briefly, but the payment was too tempting. "We accept the contract," he announced, pressing his scaled palm against the holopad. As the team dispersed to prepare, Four Eyes remained motionless. "Something else, old friend?" Virax asked. Four Eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep worry. "Human special forces don't fight like regular soldiers. They don't think like regular soldiers. They are something else." Virax patted his comrade's shoulder. 12 targets against 17 specialists. The odds enormously favor us." Four Eyes muttered as he slowly rose. Numbers mean nothing to them." The mercenary ship landed silently in a small valley, 5 kilometers from the human outpost. Cygnus 7's 3 moons cast bluish shadows across the rocky terrain. Using enhanced vision goggles, Virax surveyed the landscape. "Perfect landing! Shadow, you go first!" Shadow, their camouflage scout, stepped forward. His grey skin rippled and then seemed to vanish entirely. Virax instructed, "We need their communications down before the main attack. No witnesses, no survivors." Shadow disappeared into the night. The team waited, checking weapons and armor. 30 minutes passed with no communication. "He should have reported by now," Nara said. Virax activated his communicator. "Shadow, report," only static answered. Dren, their second camouflage scout, volunteered, "I'll find him." He too disappeared into the night. 10 more minutes passed without communication from either scout. "Something's wrong," Four Eyes said nervously. Cruel, frustrated, growled, "This is ridiculous. They're just humans." Without waiting for orders, he charged toward the human outpost, his massive plasma cannon glowing in the darkness. "No, wait!" Virax called. But too late. Cruel was already distant. The team observed through tactical visors as Cruel's life signs pulsed strong and fast. Then, suddenly, they stopped. "He's down," Nara reported, shocked. "Vital signs fading," Brain added incredulously. "Single shot, clean hit through the armor junction at the neck seal. Impossible. The armor weakness is less than a centimeter wide." With growing fear, Virax ordered, "Everyone back to the ship, now!" As they retreated, something whistled through the air. A small object fell at their feet, Shadow's identification badge, covered in dark blue blood. "They knew we were coming," Nara said, picking up the badge. "They were ready for us." Back at their ship, the remaining team gathered around the tactical display. 3 members already lost without even glimpsing their enemy. "How did they detect our scouts?" Virax demanded. "Shadow camouflage is practically invisible to any known technology." Four Eyes sat heavily. "I warned you that human special forces aren't like other soldiers." As they began strategizing, a chilling message came through their emergency channel. "Mercenary vessel, We have your landing coordinates. You have no element of surprise. Recommend immediate withdrawal. The message was in perfect Draconian, Virax's native tongue. Silence fell as they exchanged glances, all wondering, what kind of humans were they dealing with? Over the next days, a series of rapid scenes showed the mercenaries being systematically hunted by invisible humans. Weapons failing at critical moments, night vision systems showing phantom movements, sounds coming from everywhere and nowhere. One of their own minds mysteriously moved and exploded, messages found in their native languages saying, "Leave now." The surviving mercenaries gathered in a temporary cave shelter. They were visibly shaken, sleepless for days. "Status report," Virax demanded. Nara reported, 6 team members wounded. Nothing fatal, but they're using dart weapons containing some chemical that disrupts our healing abilities. Another mercenary added, "Communications completely compromised. Somehow they're listening to everything we say." Four Eyes held up a small unknown device. "And this, I found it inside my personal medical kit. It wasn't there yesterday." Brain showed evident mental distress. "I can't predict what they'll do next. It's like they don't follow any logical combat doctrine." His voice rose. "You don't understand. No species fights like this. They leave traps that shouldn't work, but do. They appear and disappear impossibly. They're everywhere and nowhere." Four Eyes placed a hand on Brain's shoulder. "Breathe, young one. What kind of species acts like this?" He answered his own question simply. "Humans. That's why I warned you." Observing the human position through advanced binoculars, Virax realized the truth. His elite team, veterans of wars across the galaxy, now trembled at shadows. "We need to change tactics," he announced to his gathered team. "No more defense. We'll set a trap." "The humans have shown they can find us wherever we hide," Virax explained. "So we'll use that against them. We'll use our most valuable equipment as bait, rare weapons, technology that no military unit could resist investigating." They worked through the night, setting up a false camp with energy signatures mimicking their presence. Nearby, hidden in carefully selected positions, the mercenaries waited with weapons ready. Hours passed until finally there was movement. "2 figures approaching from the west," Nara whispered, "moving slowly, definitely human." Virax watched through enhanced optics as 2 shapes in dark armor slipped toward their trap. They moved differently than any soldiers he'd seen, fluid yet precise, like predators. "Hold," he ordered as the humans examined the bait. "Wait until they're fully committed." The humans paused at the edge of the camp. One pointed to something on the ground, then made a hand signal to the other. "They know!" Four Eyes hissed. "Now!" Virax shouted. The mercenaries sprung their trap, energy weapons lighting up the night. The humans dove for cover, moving with impossible speed. "Surround them!" Virax ordered, feeling a surge of satisfaction. Finally, they had the upper hand. 7 elite mercenaries converged on the position where the humans were pinned down. Victory seemed certain. Then everything changed. Instead of surrendering, the cornered humans attacked. One rolled from cover, firing a weapon that seemed to predict where the mercenaries would move. The other threw small devices releasing disorienting pulses. The humans fought with terrifying efficiency, each movement targeting specific weaknesses in alien anatomy that few non-medical professionals would know. A massive warrior roared and charged one of the humans. The human didn't retreat. He stepped forward, using the alien's momentum against him with a technique Virax had never seen. "Impossible," Virax whispered, as the massive alien crashed down. Nara managed to hit one of the humans, a shot that should have incapacitated any living creature. Blood seeped through the human's armor, but he continued fighting as if uninjured. "Their pain tolerance," Four Eyes gasped beside him. "It's not natural." 3 minutes of chaos later, the humans were gone, leaving behind 3 dead mercenaries, and 4 wounded, somehow slipping away despite being outnumbered. Back at their ship, the survivors sat in stunned silence. "They knew our physiologies," Nara said hollowly. "The human shot directly through Drex's lung cavity, yet kept fighting at full capacity. Their bodies shouldn't allow this." Virax examined the medical scanner showing his wound. The human's blade had cut with surgical precision, damaging only the non-vital tissue, stopping exactly 1 microscale from his major artery. That wasn't luck, that was a message. For the first time in his long career, Virax felt absolute certainty that he and his team were completely outmatched. "We need to know more about what we're facing," Virax said. "Brain, can you intercept any communications from the outpost?" The visibly shaken tactician focused on the communication arrays. "Their encryption is unusual, but I think I can— Yes, I'm breaking through." The ship's central display showed fragments of data streams. Most were military codes, supply requisitions, routine reports. Then something caught Virax's eye. "Stop! Go back to that file." The screen displayed a partial document with a distinctive insignia, a human skull with stars for eyes. "That symbol," Four Eyes whispered. "I've seen it before." Brain enhanced the image, revealing more of the document. The header read, "Ghost. Division, operational parameters." Nara leaned closer. "Ghost Division, what does that mean?" More data flowed as Brain deepened the hack. "These aren't just soldiers," he said, his voice trembling. "There's something else." A tense debate erupted among the mercenaries. Some argued they should continue the mission. Their reputation would be ruined if they abandoned a contract. Others pointed out they had already lost nearly half their team. "Enough!" Virax finally shouted. "This isn't about reputation anymore. It's about survival." He looked at each remaining crew member. "Our client lied to us, set us up as test subjects, and these humans, they're unlike anything we've faced before." "So we're breaking the contract?" Nara asked. Virax nodded slowly. "In all my years as a mercenary, I've never walked away from a job. But I've also never led my people to certain death for an employer who deceived us." He turned to the navigation console. "Set course away from Cygnus 7. We're leaving." As the engines powered up, their communication systems suddenly activated. The shadowy figure of their client appeared on the main screen. "Captain Virax," the figure said coldly. "Our sensors indicate your ship is preparing to leave. May I remind you that your contract is not yet fulfilled?" Virax stared at the shadow that had sent his team to die. "Actually," he said, baring his sharp teeth in what might have been a smile, "we need to discuss some new terms." "New terms?" The client's shadow seemed to lean forward. "There are no new terms, Captain. You complete the contract or your reputation in this sector is finished." Virax felt his crew watching him. His scales darkened with controlled anger. "You sent us against Ghost Division without warning," he said steadily. "You knew what they were capable of." "Your team came highly recommended," the client replied coldly. "Your failure is disappointing, but not my concern." Nara stepped forward. "We found the records of the other teams you sent. 5 before us, all gone." After a long silence, the client's voice hardened. "Those records are classified. Your hacking of military communications is a serious offense." While the client was talking, Brain continued digging through the hacked files. A new document appeared. A corporate research plan titled Human Combat Capacity Assessment. Their client wasn't just testing Ghost Division. They were systematically sending mercenary teams of different species to gather data on human fighting capabilities. "You're not interested in that outpost at all," Virax said, his voice low and dangerous. "You're using mercenaries to probe human defenses, testing their reactions against different combat styles." The shadow was silent momentarily. "The data is valuable. Your contribution will be noted," Virax snarled. "Our contribution? Half my crew is dead." The client replied, "An acceptable loss for the intelligence gained. Now complete your contract or we'll ensure no one in the galaxy hires you again." Then, Four Eyes stepped forward. The old warrior stood tall, his scarred body straight with pride. "Captain," he said quietly, "the Mercenary Guild has a self-preservation clause. No mercenary can be held to a contract entered under false information that endangers their survival." Virax's eyes widened. The clause was rarely invoked, but existed for exactly this situation. He turned back to the screen. "Our contract is void. Guild Code Section 47B. Client deception resulting in unacceptable risk." the client snapped. You have no proof we deceived you. Virax smiled coldly. But we do, and we're taking it to the guild. The shadow warned, if you do this, we have resources to make your lives very difficult. Virax replied, perhaps, but not as diffy. The files revealed fragments of the unit's history, formed during humanity's early expansion wars. Ghost Division operated completely off-record, deployed for missions deemed impossible by conventional standards. Look at these operation reports, Virax said, scrolling through the data. One described how 3 Ghost Division operators infiltrated a heavily guarded rebel stronghold on a toxic world, eliminated 17 high-value targets, and extracted without detection. Another told of a single operator who neutralized an entire separatist movement in one night. This can't be real, muttered one of the mercenaries. No species could achieve these success rates. Brain pointed to another file. This is a medical report. They've been modified. The team read about the enhancements. Skeletal reinforcements, pain suppression implants, neural targeting systems, atmospheric adaptation protocols. They're not just trained, Nara said. They're engineered for warfare. Brain dug deeper into the data stream. There's more. Look at this. A new document appeared. A corporate memo from their client containing a list of previous mercenary teams sent to Cygnus 7 over the past year. 5 teams. None had returned. They've been testing the humans, Virax said, his scales darkening with anger. Using us to gather combat data on Ghost Division capabilities. The mercenaries exchanged looks of growing fury. They hadn't just been sent on a difficult mission, they'd been sacrificed for corporate intelligence gathering. We're not soldiers, Nara said, her black eyes flashing dangerously. We're measuring tools. Four Eyes placed a 4-fingered hand on Virax's shoulder. We were never meant to succeed, just to last long enough to provide useful data. Before Virax could respond, a new alert flashed on the ship's security system. Someone had breached their outer hull. The humans had found them again. Secure the bridge, Virax ordered, drawing his weapon. Nara, take the engine room. Everyone else, battle stations. The mercenaries rushed to defensive positions throughout the ship. Security screens showed nothing. Yet the breach alarm continued blaring. Where are they? Hissed a warrior, his massive guns sweeping the empty corridor. Minutes passed in intense silence. The breach indicator showed the cargo hold, but cameras revealed only darkness. Suddenly, all screens on the bridge lit up with the same message. Contract ends now. Leave orbit by 0300. No second warning. Then, as suddenly as it began, the breach alarm stopped. A security scan showed no intruders aboard. They were here! Virax said in disbelief. They could have killed us all but just left a message. Nara added, a message they could have sent electronically. They boarded our ship just to prove they could. A tense debate erupted among the mercenaries. Some argued they should continue the mission. Their reputation would be ruined if they abandoned a contract. Others pointed out they had already lost nearly half their team. Enough, Virax finally shouted. This isn't about reputation anymore. It's about survival. He looked at each remaining crew member. Our client lied to us, set us up as test subjects. And these humans, they're unlike anything we've faced before. So we're breaking the contract? Nara asked. Virax nodded slowly. In all my years as a mercenary, I've never walked away from a job, but I've also never led my people to certain death for an employer who deceived us. He turned to the navigation console. Set course away from Cygnus 7. We're leaving. As the engines powered up, their communication system suddenly activated. The shadowy figure of their client appeared on the main screen. Captain Virax, the figure said coldly. Our sensors indicate your ship is preparing to leave. May I remind you that your contract is not yet fulfilled? Virax stared at the shadow that had sent his team to die. Actually, he said, baring his sharp teeth in what might have been a smile, we need to discuss some new terms. New terms? The client's shadow seemed to lean forward. There are no new terms, Captain. You complete the contract or your reputation. in this sector is finished. Virax felt his crew watching him. His scales darkened with controlled anger. You sent us against Ghost Division without warning, he said steadily. You knew what they were capable of. Your team came highly recommended, the client replied coldly. Your failure is disappointing, but not my concern. Nara stepped forward. We found the records of the other teams you sent. 5 before us, all gone. After a long silence, the client's voice hardened. Those records are classified. Your hacking of military communications is a serious offense. While the client was talking, Brain continued digging through the hacked files. A new document appeared, a corporate research plan titled Human Combat Capacity Assessment. Their client wasn't just testing Ghost Division. They were systematically sending mercenary teams of different species to gather data on human fighting capabilities. You're not interested in that outpost at all, Virax said, his voice low and dangerous. You're using mercenaries to probe human defenses, testing their reactions against different combat styles. The shadow was silent momentarily. The data is valuable. Your contribution will be noted, Virax snarled. Our contribution? Half my crew is dead. The client replied, an acceptable loss for the intelligence gained. Now complete your contract, or we'll ensure no one in the galaxy hires you again. Then Four Eyes stepped forward. The old warrior stood tall, his scarred body straight with pride. Captain, he said quietly, the Mercenary Guild has a self-preservation clause. No mercenary can be held to a contract entered under false information that endangers their survival. Virax's eyes widened. The clause was rarely invoked, but existed for exactly this situation. He turned back to the screen. Our contract is void. Guild Code Section 47B. Client deception resulting in unacceptable risk. The client snapped. You have no proof we deceived you. Virax smiled coldly. But we do, and we're taking it to the guild. The shadow warned. If you do this, we have resources to make your lives very difficult. Virax replied, perhaps, but not as difficult as those humans would make them. He leaned closer. And know this, I'm going to tell every mercenary captain in the galaxy about Ghost Division. By the time I'm done, you won't find a single hired gun willing to take a contract against human special forces. You wouldn't dare, the client hissed. We fear them more than we fear you, Virax said simply and cut the transmission. As their ship broke orbit, a human commander watched from the planet's surface. She smiled slightly. Smart move, she said to no one in particular. 3 weeks. Later, Virax stood before the Mercenary Guild Council. The circular chamber was packed with the most dangerous hired guns in the galaxy. We have reviewed your evidence, said the Guildmaster, an ancient being whose species was long forgotten. Your contract with Helix Corporation is officially voided under Section 47B. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Contract voidance was rare. Many mercenaries shifted uncomfortably, wondering what could possibly frighten the famous Virax. Tell them, urged Nara beside him. Virax stepped forward. Fellow mercenaries, I come with a warning about an enemy unlike any we have faced. For an hour, he detailed their encounter with Ghost Division, showing battle footage, medical reports of their dead, and the corporate documents revealing how mercenary teams were being used as test subjects. With each revelation, the room grew quieter. When he described how a wounded human had continued fighting with a punctured lung, a mercenary known for pain tolerance visibly flinched. I have never abandoned a contract before, Virax concluded. But these humans, they are something else. They don't just kill. They study you, learn your weaknesses, and dismantle you with surgical precision. The Guildmaster leaned forward. What would you have us do? Virax proposed. A new guild-wide directive. No mercenary shall accept contracts against human special forces units, particularly Ghost Division. They should be classified as prohibited targets under guild law. Heated debate erupted. Some argued that with enough firepower, any enemy could fall. Others pointed out that mercenaries didn't become successful by taking suicidal contracts. Finally, Four Eyes stepped forward. The chamber quieted. Everyone respected the old veteran. I have fought in wars across 30 systems, he said, his raspy voice carrying weight accumulated through centuries of battle. I have killed beings from more species than most of you have met, and never have I encountered anything like these humans. He gestured to his scarred body. These marks came from battles I won. There are no scars from Ghost Division, because no one survives to heal. The Guildmaster called for a vote. Across the chamber, mercenary captains raised their hands one by one. By evening, it was official. Human Special Forces, including Ghost Division, were designated as prohibited targets under Mercenary Guild law. Any corporation or government using proxies to test human capabilities would face united mercenary opposition. Years later, Virax, his golden scales now faded with age, sat in a dimly lit bar on the edge of guild space, remembering fallen comrades. "This seat taken?" asked a voice. Virax looked up to see a human male, average height, unremarkable features. Yet something in how he moved caught Virax's attention, the same fluid precision he had seen on Cygnus 7. "Ghost Division?" Virax asked quietly. The man smiled slightly as he sat. "Retired, like yourself, name's Michael." They ordered drinks in silence. Finally, Virax asked the question that had haunted him for years. "You could have killed us all. On our ship, why didn't you?" Michael considered the question. Dead mercenaries tell no tales, but survivors, they create legends. Virax understood. "So it was deliberate, building your reputation." The human nodded. "Why fight battles you can prevent? Your guild's prohibition saves both our lives." "So that day on Cygnus 7, Virax asked carefully, "how many of you were really there?" The intelligence said 12. Michael replied, 4, and we were recovering from a previous mission, 2 with injuries. Virax stared at his drink, processing this information. "What would have happened if you'd been at full strength?" Michael smiled enigmatically. "Why do you think we let you live to spread the story?" Later, as the human left, Virax watched him disappear into the crowd. The question would haunt him for the rest of his days. Across the galaxy, corporations occasionally still tested the guild's resolve, offering astronomical sums to mercenaries willing to take contracts against human special forces. None accepted. The legend of Ghost Division had accomplished what no weapon could. It had created peace through fear,